You are listening to River West Radio on WXR WLP 104.1 FM Milwaukee. Support for this program comes from Collectivo Coffee, hosting Milwaukee Makers Market third Sundays May through September at Collectivo Bayview. Milwaukee Makers Market features more than 30 local craft, art, and design vendors. More info is at collectivocoffee.com. All right, this is Cinema Fireside. We're at riverwestradio.com and 104.1 FM in Milwaukee. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you're listening live, it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful summer evening in Milwaukee. I'd probably say around the mid-70s, something like that. Who knows? Oh, there's our man Gabe calling in. Gabe, thanks for calling in, my man. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. It's a great life. Water instead of soda pop, man. That's all I got to say on that. So, yeah, it is a wild life. It's also wild when people ask how you're doing and you say good. You know, that means nothing, but it's what they want to hear. You know, like whether the ship is sinking or not, as long as you say good. Okay, no, I hope everyone out there is doing well, and I am doing well tonight too, and I'm not just saying that. There's always, there's lots of people with lots of different situations, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. I'm very fortunate to have my physical and mental faculties. That's pretty killer. I do not take that for granted. I think about that every day, and very thankful for that. And it's good stuff also. What's done is it's not just like, oh, did you take a walk today? You're supposed to move about throughout the day. That's really good for your health. That's so did you eat? It's one walk is like one banana. I mean, you have to have an apple, banana, strawberries, blueberries throughout the day. It's so you should take several walks in incremental forms. You do whatever you want, but it's good for you to do that. Film-wise, I saw Julius Caesar and Hollywood Homicide, and there's always a method to all of that because I like to always study Shakespeare. But I also want to say that I ran into one of my colleagues I've known for about a quarter century, and he teaches cinema down at Columbia in Chicago. And so it was great to talk about the Kuleshov effect with him, which is a very simple, fundamental idea in cinema about the actor retaining the same stature of countenance, meaning that when you keep the same face while within this brief montage intermittently, or you juxtapose that actor's stoic face with maybe a bowl of soup, a cat, or whatever they did, and they would say, my gosh, what a great actor, how he reacts to each and every specter in front of him. Well, of course, he's not reacting to anything in front of him. It's the magic of editing. So I was talking to him about that. We were talking about Aristotle's Poetics. We were talking about the art of dramatic writing. And along with books like Antonin Artaud's The Theater and Its Double, and Peter Brooks, or is it Peter Hall? My memory, The Empty Space, are fundamental works about the theater, and you can include in that David Mamet's theater, just a great philosophical, intellectual treatise on aspects of theater in life. So David Mamet's theater is a deep resource for fundamental thinking about life and the theater. I also got a collection of Arthur Schnitzler's plays. Arthur Schnitzler wrote Dream novella in the mid-20s. He's a Viennese, and that is what Eyes Wide Shut is based on. So in beginning to read his plays, the first being La Ronda in this collection, it's thematically Eyes Wide Shut through and through. So it's totally a delight to see how Eyes Wide Shut is fundamentally born from ideas 100 years ago, essentially 100 years ago, 90 years ago, or at that time maybe 80 years ago or so, 70 years ago, 75. So yeah, great stuff. Arthur Schnitzler, the author of Eyes Wide Shut, and in his version, it's Dream Novella, Traum Novella, I believe it's called. I've read that. Good stuff. And so to talk about Julius Caesar, it was basically an endurance test because it's kind of like when I began to read Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. It was like, you know, I had read so much Bukowski, and no one will ever even come close to Charles Bukowski, that Catcher in the Rye just didn't have the impact for me. If I would have just read that as a solitary act in that particular genre of individual angst, it would have had the impact as it did on others. But again, like I said, when I had been first introduced to the very best, Charles Bukowski, nothing could ever match that. So, and just like I would say, like the Holy Trinity in the 20s, Faulkner, Hemingway, and Fitzgerald, I totally dig Fitzgerald. It's dreamlike. I mean, several readings of The Great Gatsby, and then moving on to The Last Tycoon about the film business, headed by Monroe Starr. That's great stuff. Faulkner is very, very, very dense, very repetitive, and if you really want to get hit over the head with that style, you can move ahead about 50 years into Moss Dowman's The Stones of Summer, this thick tome of kind of existential replay. And you are very lucky if you have not heard of The Stones of Summer, because there is a killer documentary on it called Stone Reader, and I've seen that 2 or 3 times. Just great stuff. And actually, moving on, there's a great film from the early 70s, Winter Soldier. I was at the library and looking through the books, and at that time, they had some of their DVDs interspersed between the books according to subject matter. So I saw this flick, Winter Soldier, black and white, early 70s. I said, well, that's it for me, man. And sure enough, just a great film on returning soldiers at this convention. I think it takes place in Detroit, and actually you can actually see John Kerry briefly in it too, before he was known as he is now. He was just who he was back then. So that's kind of neat to see him there. And speaking of odd cameos too, you can go to Wattstax, just another killer film, and you could see the dude from Love Boat in it before he was the dude from Love Boat. So that's kind of unique to see that as well. Yeah, Wattstax is a great concert film. And I think it actually, if I'm correct, it starts with the dramatics, and which is weird because they actually play a little bit of a role in Bigelow's Detroit. Before I knew that, though, I just caught on to this dramatic song. I mean, I was into them decades ago, but I just kind of clued into this one song again, and my memory fails me. And days later, I found that they were actually, they were in the film. So that was odd, reading the New York Times, finding that kind of weird coincidence, foreshadowing, kind of. Well, it was actually, I was reading. I'm at the tail end of Greg Allman's memoir. I think it's My Cross to Bear, and one dude that was actually in a film that I was acquainted with, Here Comes Rusty, Bruce Hampton. He's actually mentioned in the Allman memoir toward the tail end. But what was odd about it, Mr. Allman was talking about a couple groups that were around at the time, and one of them was called Grinder Switch. And I had to get some albums ready for the River West 24, and all of a sudden I'm going through my albums, and here's this obscure group, Grinder Switch, which was talked about by Mr. Allman. So I kept that out, and we'll be checking that out. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, there's great stuff. Wattstax, Winter Soldier, just great documentaries from back in the day. And if you haven't seen Gimme Shelter, man, that is the coup d'etat. That is the winning stroke of concert films, along with The Last Waltz, of course. Just incredible stuff. And so anyway, Julius Caesar. So again, I kind of was spoiled right from the get-go by Olivier's Hamlet, Wells's Macbeth, Othello, and Chimes at Midnight, along with Polanski's Macbeth. So there's a great amount of stars or luminaries in Julius Caesar, including Marlon Brando, and you have Edmund O'Brien, who seemed kind of puffy, so I was wondering if he was kind of like a booze hound at that point. And it's kind of mixed acting styles. He has more Edmund O'Brien. He stars in DOA, a great little noir film. So the acting styles are a little bit different in that film, but essentially it's people, the actors, reciting Shakespeare, and so I find it directing flat, and consequently the acting uninspired. So it's kind of like an endurance test, and Julius Caesar was played by a guy who looked like a middle-aged banker, so I was like, man, this just ain't happening in that sense. Because, all of this myth-making, whether it's like, and Jimi Hendrix is a great guitarist and all of that stuff, but then it's always refreshing to read someone who said, yeah, I saw him. I wasn't that impressed. And, he is a great guitar player, but he may have had an off night, or maybe, whatever. So I always think it's always super, super cool when someone just really says what they're thinking, and everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe that was just said. My icon, my this, my that. So, yeah. In that Almond memoir, there's kind of lots of little cool snippets like that about bands and people. It's not derogatory. It's just like, hey, the emperor, he ain't got no clothes, man. That's just the way it is, kind of stuff like that. So that's super cool. Because I read enough biographies and memoir, or I should say memoirs, because biographies, that's third party. So memoirs are kind of like, that first person along with the ghostwriter. So what they say is what they say, actually. And Gabe, thanks for holding on, man. We're going to get to you shortly. Hollywood Homicide. I watch a lot of dense things, but because I write screenplays and that, and I write screenplays for others, write screenplays for my work. So I always like the art of, also of narrative screenplay, that of populist Hollywood stuff, and it has a template to it. It has a certain template that you have to follow, and something like Hollywood Homicide, so with Josh Hartnett and Harrison Ford, and also like to go back in time. It's like from 2003, so it's like, wow, this is a trip how time goes, fashion changes, all of that kind of stuff. So these are kind of like, these films are time capsules, essentially. So I don't ever take the films themselves seriously, but kind of like all of the peripheral elements, that galvanize into the film, but you just deconstruct it back into their component parts and just, dig whatever you're digging. And it was bad. It kind of like flirted with Showgirls bad. Showgirls being the worst Hollywood film ever made, The Room being the worst independent film ever made, and Plan 9 from Outer Space being the worst low-budget film ever made. And when I mean worst, they're highly enjoyable, highly just, it's the joy of life when you're watching these things. I'm just saying that obviously, to refer to the old cliche, they're so bad that they're good. So yeah, Showgirls, The Room, Plan 9 from Outer Space, that's a home run. 3 strikes. Well, maybe not a home run. Maybe the exact opposite, but no, just great stuff. So, in minutes now. Minutes, Gabe. Minutes, seconds even. I just want to... So, yesterday was the writing day. There's 2 sessions, In the morning, it's just being alone, not the heavy presence of anyone else, But I'm at a coffee shop, so I'm surrounded by people and vitality. But there's no one in your face and no one asking you, hey, what are you doing? All of that stuff that just brings you down, man. Going through the art section, article by article. I mean, the ones that contribute to your sense of joy in life. One was on the band, The War on Drugs, and, they're just stick-to-itiveness and their dedication to their work. And so I read about cinema, theater, music, all of that. And then on Mondays, you dig into the book review, and it's just like utterly fascinating because it's not so much the books that they're reviewing, but exploring the subject matter of it. In the writing, it's that sensual, humorous intellectuality. So that's totally on the money. So I was really high because I was also writing good stuff. And then there's the lull of the afternoon, and you just kind of like plummet. So I went back to work at the lake, and it's like, oh man! And then started, transcribing page after page after page these projects, and I'm saying, wow, this writing's good, man. And so you wake up the next morning like a drunk, and a drunk be saying, oh man, what happened? What did I do? It's the same thing. What happened? What did I do? I know something happened, but it's in a positive thing. It's like, dang, that's right. I have brought forth those pages from yesterday into today. There was meaningful conduct yesterday that gives me direction today. Gabe, welcome to your life, man. How you doing?
Excellent. Excellent. Things are good. So, Mark, this is all exciting stuff. There's been some...
I should say so.
Yeah, there's been lots of good additions to the canon of movies I'm looking forward to, movies that I've gotten around to seeing, projects, writing done as well, and books being read, mostly all about cinema. Picked up a British book that's a somewhat definitive guide to horror films, and of course British film critics and the British public have been exposed to a different periphery and different variety of horror films than we do. There's stuff that gets released differently, or that has a wider release schedule, or that's more widely released over there than over here. Some stuff that doesn't come over here at all, and vice versa. Some stuff that doesn't get over there. They had lots of censorship issues for many years, and so with those issues being at the front, the horror and genre cinema in the UK among all cinema is different. There's variants on it, even though we speak the same language, and we
Gabe,
in some ways a very similar culture. We have
my man, you sound like you're in a psychedelic fishbowl. Where are you? It's not, well, you don't have to tell us where you're at if you have to be incognito, but for technical purposes, where are you at?
I am. Is there an echo?
It's more psychedelic than an echo. But don't. I would say just move with caution, with a sense of calm, and find your spot and shine like the luminary that you are. So as Gabe is taking those necessary steps, I will also have to take the necessary steps and ensure that there's no dead air time, which is one of the things that you... Oh, my man, that knowing laughter tells me you're squared away.
Well, I'm here. I'm just moving away from the river.
Yeah, don't fall in, my man. We need you.
I figured that. So, anyway, Mark, I'm gonna call back in.
Okay, I will turn this system off, and okay, Gabe, we'll wait for your great call back in. And wow, yeah, a journal must be kept alive. It's crazy, man. Everything's crazy, but it's usually in a good way, and you got to be connected to yourself. Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, all of that stuff, year after year after year after year after year. Yeah, I mean, just the way it is. It's great to, because I wake up several times throughout the night, wake up in the morning, so, I roll with that stuff into dreamland. Martin, you look cool with those shades. You're CIA, my man. Gabe, welcome back.
Do we have an echo still?
No, we don't.
We're sounding good? Okay, groovy. I think it was just that it was being mirrored between multiple multiple satellites.
Man, you got caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, sometimes that'll happen. So I've been reading a fair amount about these interwaves between British and American cinema, and
you're talking Alan Clark. No, are you familiar with him, my man?
Alan Park?
Clark.
Alan Clark. Remind me again.
Okay. Well, I'm reminding myself too. I just you got to play the name game, because when you talk about British cinema, I think about Peter Watkins, who did one of the great films, Punishment Park, and I was like, oh man, where was that screened in the States? Was that on university campuses? But anyway, no, there's a great article in this Sunday's paper about Alan Clark, who also did very experimental films on the BBC. So that's when you speak about British film, Gabriel, Alan Clark, you want to look him up and put him into your canon, encyclopedic canon.
Yes, I've seen a few of his films, and the major film of his, I believe, is called Scum.
Yes, sir.
Scum I've seen probably about 4 or 5 times. It's one of my favorite films. It's one of the greatest films I've ever seen. It's a film that I would recommend to anyone. Numerous films of Clark have been banned. He made an experimental film in the 1960s about the potentials of an atomic bomb going off and the fallout that would ensue, and it was considered so realistic that it was immediately banned, and it was terrifying and horrifying, and people were frightened. And he wasn't trying to create some science fiction film. He was just trying to make a very, he wanted to get a message across of what would happen if there was an atomic bomb dropped on London, and people didn't like it. People really didn't like it. So Alan Clark has all this controversy around him, and Scum is definitely the most controversial work, and it also, by chance, happens to be his most potent. It's a grand work of poetry. It's great acting, this sort of direct street style of British poetry. It's just infused with this real wild sort of punk rock viciousness of just real straightforward, unpretentious, completely about his low class, and I mean that in the best possible way, that it doesn't have any of this elitism, or it doesn't have any sort of posterity, and it feels like a raw, real vision of real people, of real boys. It has a sort of candidness, and it has a real visceral quality that it's such a breath of fresh air. It's edited extremely well, it's shot extremely well, and it's acted really potently, and it's also the film where Ray Livingstone makes his first appearance, who also is probably most widely known as one of the supporting actors in The Departed, and as the main character in the movie Sexy Beast, which is one of the most underrated and criminally underseen crime films ever made.
I saw it, my man. That's a great film. Saw it a couple times. Ben Kingsley.
Absolutely.
And Gabe, just real quick, while you're speaking of Sexy Beast with Mr. Kingsley, then we should, if they enjoyed Sexy Beast, we should also refer our listenership to, is it Death in the Maiden with Mr. Kingsley and Sigourney Weaver?
Yes.
So Mr. Polanski helmed that. Yes, absolutely.
Kingsley's a really interesting actor. He's become a little bit of a kind of a call girl of acting of late, of just playing random ethnic roles of any orientation that calls. He's in, increasingly awful films with every decade that passes. Anything. He's sort of become like the Donald Sutherland of upper tier ethnic roles, but.
Oh, you're having a blast with that one.
Well, but I mean that in the best possible way, whereas Donald Sutherland really lowered his standards later in his career, where he was in like every sort of made-for-cable,
maybe his agent did.
Direct-to-DVD. Well, I think he just needed money.
Right, that's where the agent comes in.
Yeah, but yeah, Donald Sutherland is still... there's numerous actors that fall into this category where they just are willing, where they are in like tons of movies in these like supporting roles, where they're just willing to do anything, and they act voraciously as they get older.
Gabe, I got to say this. What's so hilarious is that when you read all those interviews with all these actors talking about the role,
Sure.
it's like, look, man, it's the agent. All they care about is the money. Believe you me, they sit. It's like the stock market, dude. And that role, that the character, I really felt the character. No, what you felt was your agent's call saying, "Take this, dude. We just got this."
Yeah. Well, like George Kennedy is a prime example of, he sort of wrote the book on that, on just, whatever he can fit into his schedule, he'll do. It doesn't matter. Like, doesn't have any, like, he'll just, my friend Mike Johnson refers to it as he'll do anything, like, level of awfulness. Like Donald Sutherland direct to DVD is actually a terminology, very like Roger Ebert. In when he's referring to a sort of once great, sort of knighted actor who, nominated or has won several Academy Awards and now just does direct to DVD or direct to cable, awful, Z grade, awful. But there's not always something wrong with that. You don't have to watch those movies. No one's forcing you to, and chances are you're never going to watch them anyway. So don't worry. Donald Sutherland still left us with a lot of great films, a lot of great roles, very iconic. But anyway, I wanted to get to a couple other things. There's some film adventures that I've been on this last week. I started watching the Epics, which is a TV network that occasionally does really interesting documentaries. Oh, man, I have a train going by pretty soon here. So, Mark, you're going to have to take the wheel and turn my volume down a little while.
Okay, so, my man, how do we know when we're going to be back? Dude, my man, you want to just call back?
You might be hearing some train whistles.
Oh, well, that sounds fun, though.
You know what?
That sounds fun, my man.
But that's half the fun. Field
it is half the fun.
Are a major part of my...
Could be 3/4 of the fun. You never know.
My listening experience in life. And, oh, man, we got a deep bass rumble. We got sort of machinery. We got all sorts of turnings and grindings. We got good stuff here. It's reminding me of one of my favorite films, Runaway Train. This is good stuff. We got no train whistles either. This is even cooler.
Well, not at the crossroads, man. I was on an Amtrak and we took out a car, but
oh man.
Well, no, the dude tried to outrun it, so it's not. There was no moral thing about it. It's like, well, that's what happens. You don't try to outrun a train. The Cool Club didn't work that day, believe me.
Yeah. But this documentary that
there we go, man. See, now that's action-packed. That's excitement at its height.
I couldn't agree more. So this documentary I was watching on Robert Altman.
You ever put a penny on the tracks, dude?
What's up?
You ever put a penny on the tracks?
No.
You get a flat penny, man.
Yeah. No thanks.
We live by a steel mill, so.
I knew a friend recently who was a train conductor who told me some real interesting, when I say interesting, I mean terrifying, horrible stories images I can never remove from my mind about things that he saw as a train conductor, as a conductor of a train, like lives that are no longer with us and things that he saw that things that happened that could not be stopped. And every time I see train tracks now, I just like 5 or 6 of these stories that he told me, just like I instantly see these images in my head. Because he pointed out the locations where they happened, and I drive by some of these locations on an almost daily basis, and like...
You're still haunted.
I'll look over by it, and it's like I wasn't there, I didn't see this, but man, the candid and the sort of unpretentious way that he told the story, and he was such a down-to-earth but intelligent guy, like is a mechanical engineer, but didn't read a whole lot of books, wasn't too verbose with words, and that just made it even more potent. That made it more of an excellent story. That made the words jump out even more. It's because he had this sort of direct 1-2 punch way of, or just 1-1-1-1-1 left way of telling the story. And man, trains will never be the same again. So. But yeah, this film I've been watching about Robert Altman, man.
What film is that?
It's on Amazon Prime, but it's been out for a handful of years. Just simply titled Altman. It's an overview of the man's work and his life, and I'm also rereading Easy Rider's Raging Bulls, which also goes into personal lives and careers of numerous major figures in the American New Wave. So you've got Robert Altman, Peter Bogdanovich, William Friedkin, and Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, among many others. So you've got all sorts of figures, but man, Robert Altman is definitely one of the
I've read that
major
book
figures in the American film movement.
I've read that book, and am I
Peter Biskin?
Yeah, okay, because I'm reading one by Peter Bart right now on Paramount.
Peter Bart is an equally brilliant figure. Peter Bart and Peter Guber are like the two Peters of the major film figures of that time that continued to be major film figures well into the early 2000s. Peter Guber, who later went on to form Gramercy Pictures, which was like the more independent division of Polygram, which Polygram was already an extremely independent and sort of forward-thinking studio that existed in its own time and place. The fact that Polygram existed even at all and that they were a profitable studio is amazing. The films that they made are just stunning, and the tenacity of Peter Guber is just. And there were these guys that shifted power from studio to studio. They were creative executives at Paramount, and then they would go over to Sony. In the early days of Sony becoming a powerhouse after they acquired Columbia Pictures, there were some really, really interesting shifts in the dynamic of the types of films. I'm sorry, not the dynamics, but the risks that were being taken in the types of films that were coming out in the 80s, mid-level, sort of independent style films that just had a little more money behind them and a little more intellect. Just mainstream cinema becoming more focused on like the romantic comedy and on situational comedies, working class comedies, not so much the big blockbuster films that had reigned for so long, or the sort of the George Segal type absurdist comedies of the 70s. And the 80s were a real strange period because the studios were going through turmoil again, but then after you had the big blockbuster era opening up in the 80s, there had to be this other period of there's other types of movies, other types of movie stars, and they sort of created the environment of these mid-level films that had small to mid budgets where movie stars just played ordinary people, and you don't really see that anymore. That's sort of evaporated, where you don't really have movies like that dominating the multiplex anymore. I was just talking about that with my sister yesterday, that you don't really see a lot of movies that mainstream, widely advertised films that have people that have sort of middle class careers. You always have these like extreme films where things are blowing up, or like it's like blockbuster and special effects and all this cacophony and all this stuff, rather than just situational comedies or situational dramas. About more approachably ordinary people. Anyway, we got wildly off topic there, but it's
we didn't.
That's the whole point. It's the whole point. So there's some really good stuff coming up here pretty soon, coming out in the theaters. Nocturama, which is finally getting released in the States, is a new French film by Bertrand Bonello, who previous claim to major international fame is Saint Laurent from 2014, which is an incredible film, and House of Pleasures from 2011, which is an intoxicating little find about a bordello in the late 1800s. And his newest film is about a group of terrorists in Paris, and this was made years ago, before the Paris attacks of 2015. This was a screenplay that was written around like 2009, 2010. And it's a group of young, sort of wandering anarchists that stage a series of violent attacks in downtown Paris throughout a series of a day, and then they meet up in a closed or abandoned shopping center. It's not really clear from the reviews exactly what the circumstances are, but that they've left, that due to the attacks and there being a city shutdown, they're sort of left to wander throughout a shopping mall. So you have echoes of so many films. You have these young people that are playing around with consumerism, that are anti-consumerism. You have people in shopping malls. You have avant-garde filmmaking. I am dying to see this film. You have echoes of the film of Gus Van Sant's Elephant from 2003. You have Dawn of the Dead. And the fact that Borchardt is handling this film, who is such a deft user of music and visuals and setting and time and place, interiors, clothing, props. You couldn't choose, maybe with the exception of Leo Carax and a handful of other French filmmakers that really, really have come up where music has really dominated in a really postmodern way that Tarantino uses as well. I just cannot wait to see this film. So I eagerly am looking forward to seeing this film and reporting back on it as soon as I can. Steven Soderbergh has officially returned from retirement, which is, I think this is his third round of saying that he's retiring. So now he has returned to feature films, which should surprise no one. He initially returned to television work with The Nick, which was a Cinemax original series that had 2 seasons, which I saw a few episodes of and was very impressed, but never finished it. But it seemed very good and very well intentioned and well shot and well edited and all that well-meaning stuff. But Logan Lucky is his return to the big cinemas, and so I eagerly await to return on that. But that comes out this Friday, so I hope anyone who's a big Soderbergh fan or a fan of his style, of all sorts of styles, looks forward to seeing his newest entry and his return.
Yeah, bless your heart. That was also in the Times. So read about all of this stuff as well. So Gabe, that is really good that you are hip to the trip and can bring it to light as you do.
Detroit, which I did go see. Was very eager to see this and report on this. You know, it's Catherine Bigelow's newest film, and she is just one of my absolute favorite filmmakers for so many reasons. Her style, her subject matter, her tenacity, just everything about her. I love her films. She's unpredictable in her choices too, but there always seems to be these threads that go under that connect her work together, as Tammy Williams has so eloquently spoken about when she's come on the show on more than one occasion. Probably my favorite or second favorite action filmmaker of all time. Her work on The Hurt Locker from 2009 is nothing short of completely amazing. Zero Dark 30 has its absolute strengths, but also succumbs to a number of unfortunate weaknesses. But it's who's to say whether it's a strength or a weakness. But having watched that film a few times, it's so clinical and direct and sturdy and strong that the minor problems that I have with it subjectively are real minor compared to its tough strengths. But unfortunately, Detroit falls prey to those same weaknesses and even succumbs even further. I was really excited for this film. I've been reading nothing but great praise, press, but it just feels completely one-dimensional, despite the fact that it's aggressively well shot, aggressively well edited, aggressively well acted, and put together with the most earnest of liberal intentions. And that might be the bigger problem, is that it's so put together. There's nothing that's loose. There's nothing that feels organic. There's nothing that feels authentic besides the look of things. And that's the problem, is that it's obsessed with appearances. And it's obsessed with the look of things. The look of violence, the showing of violence. It's not as much about the feeling as much as it is about the presentation, the look, the appearance. The look of marks. And considering how beat up most of the main actors are supposedly getting, they still continuously look so beautiful throughout the whole film, which shouldn't matter. But
the makeup artist has to keep their job.
The makeup is so bad in this film. And it's such a. It just do it right. If you're making a film about appearances that's essentially obsessed and can't get beyond the appearances and the presentation of things.
Yeah, but I would argue this, that it's a because it's a Hollywood film, it's a union film, and so everyone is union, and each film is a calling card for the next film. So there's no one that's going to put their name on a
makeup artist doesn't get called back.
So there's no, but what I'm saying is why people wear makeup in films, which is bizarre, because this is no longer the 1920s. It's just bizarre to see makeup in film, but those are jobs. And the cinematography, when I enter rooms, there ain't no smoke in rooms, but in half the films there are, because that's what the cinematographer does. That's his calling card, his or her calling card to the next film. So each film is a calling card, was what's paying the mortgage for these dozens or hundreds of people working on the film.
Well, I mean, you do need makeup in order to go on the news, to be on. My dad went on the news a few times a few years ago. He was the psychologist, resident psychologist, for a while for this morning show that they were doing on. I can't remember if it was TMJ4 or if it was Fox. I think it was TMJ4. They had him as a special guest like a few times, and they had him like doing a series on child psychology and on these questions that they were and topics that they were having about common questions that parents had about kids or about child raising or about developmental stuff. And, he had to put on some makeup just because of the lights, the shine, the pickup of the camera, and it's not like a ton of makeup, but it's just this light layer.
Right, so, but I understand that, my man, but you got people, actors and actresses, looking like they're at the morgue, man. It's the exact same effect.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. So what I'm saying is, if you're making a film and you got to square that cinematographer away, you got to talk to the makeup people and say, you know what, this film ain't going to be your calling card. This is the way it's going to look, and you can take the money or not take the money, but this is our, this is going to look this way. So those, those are all things you got to think about before you get into work with other people and into art with other people. Is to the more preparation you do, the more fortunate you are when you're in the middle of the process. So that's always a good thing. And I got a man agreeing with that here, Victor. So thank you. Yeah, no, preparation is key. Being forthright is key. All of that kind of stuff. And that's just the way it is. But we're all human. We all have our shadows, our fallacies, our misinterpretations, our tangents. Our allegiances, our non-allegiances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, it's what makes us human. It's inherently important that we have all those things. If we didn't, it'd be pretty ridiculous. But at times, it gets pretty ridiculous the more that we pledge allegiance to these supposed individual calling cards. The way that we're I most of the time, increasingly, the older I get, the more quiet I am in conversations, but more than one person present, which is not the way I used to be for many years up until about a year ago or so. I just increasingly what is the point of saying anything? Who cares? So,
well,
anyway, I got a few things to finish up here about Detroit. Is that I love Catherine Bigelow as a filmmaker. I'm a huge fan of her style, and the strengths of the film, the things that do really work. Her use of great cinematography and great editing and great music and just great lighting and great acting is that she always has great handheld photography, and she utilizes that extreme handheld that you see in the post-Bourne film age, and she somehow manages to use it tastefully and tactfully instead of just overwhelming and barraging the screen with it like most directors do, if they choose to use it. But she uses the zoom lens incredibly well. She has this great sense of time and place and of location. You really feel like you're in a three-dimensional space. You really feel the walls. You have a cognitive map that feels authentic of the location that you're in, of the character's location. You always have this good sense of temporalness, of claustrophobia, of suspense, and that's what she's a real master of. Is she's a master of subtle, realistic horrors. Sort of, Jonathan Demme was another master of subtle realism in a unconventional horror films that you wouldn't necessarily consider terrifying or scary. Cronenberg obviously is monikered usually as a horror filmmaker. He does the same things, the subtle realism of confined spaces and open spaces as well. Early Luc Besson films had that as well, uses of doors, uses of walls, uses of spaces, open and closed spaces. But this film really does a great job of using space in the way that the Stanford Prison Experiment is a complete failure.
Thank you.
This film is a complete success with the use of a hallway as the primary location of the majority of the film. I was making mental notes of the way that it was shot in a very similar way, but it just had this sense of place, a sense of, and as uncomfortable as the events that are going on in the screen are, you have this sense of dank realism. There's a real tension and there's a real presence there. But one thing that did bother me was the fact that it never gets beyond the obvious, sort of the high school or the freshman year of college version of right and wrong, good and bad, black and white. And ultimately these very conditional and very obvious lines that are drawn in the sand, which sometimes the whole point in life and in art and in films and in the meaning of things that happen, of the things that define us as human beings, is that line between right or wrong and good and bad. And it's a very definitive, very point line. But in a film like this, it is so obvious what that line is that it doesn't need to be pointed out. And the fact that it's overly defined, it's constantly referenced, and the fact that the other characters only look at this line back and forth, and then when it's blurred, it's like done sort of with this pat on the back. It's just so it's surface-based reactionaryism that has this real obvious cause and effect lineage of the timeline of the film too, and which ultimately doesn't allow the violence to really hurt and doesn't allow it to become realistic or threatening or transcendent or transcendental. So the film is always very, very, very present as a film, and it never goes beyond that blurred line into magic. And it stays so safe in its boundaries of what it's showing you that it really just never goes into the really powerfully emotional terrain that it could have, beyond just beyond the story and the history and the events and like I said, the obvious cause and effect. It just stays within these really safe lines, considering how dangerous and how widely necessary in some ways this film really is at the times that we live in. It really could have been a potent, powerful, huge work of art, and I feel like its technical and its aesthetic achievements are so minor compared to what this film could have said subjectively. The way that there are questions that have no answers, every question in this film has this like concrete, obvious answer. There's nothing left to the imagination. There's nothing left to figure out. There's no open ends. It just felt like it was a film made for like a really open-minded, liberal 14-year-old, which is just a huge disappointment, because Catherine Bigelow comes from such a field of ambiguous art films and art genre films that to see her sort of fall into the trappings of this very self-congratulatory liberalism in filmmaking that even I would say makes George Clooney's films look mysterious in comparison. It's just odd. But I still, as a technical filmmaker and as a craftsman of suspense, she's almost unrivaled. So on the one hand, it's a complete success, and on the other hand, it's a total failure.
Good,
That's
Gabe.
all I got to say about that.
Good assessment, and I think it's an incredible assessment. And I'm kind of like been doing like pantomime here with Victor for about like 5 minutes. I'm not sure exactly. Okay, we'll get you on like in about how's like 3 minutes, Victor. Yeah, I got you on the green mic, my man. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, are you gonna read some writing? Oh, okay. And that's all. It's all My man, it's all good, clean language. Oh, no, you got to do better than try. Oh, man. Yeah. Okay, we've got a note. Okay. Okay, thank you, Zav. It's one of those notes. Victor, I'm listening to you too. I just got handed a note, kind of, which fits in the context of this burgeoning mayhem up here on stage. And Gabe, you're hanging tough with us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, do you want to say hi to your man, Victor?
Hi, Victor.
Hi, how's it going?
You actually are on the air now, my man. And Gabe,
bueno,
too, you could be a man. You can go for the next film review,
yes.
Whatever you want.
Well,
I've been.
What's going?
Yeah.
What else I saw recently was Cloud Landsman.
And you are on the air, Victor, just so you know what as you listen to Gabe.
No, only,
Gabe, go for it.
Only here, okay. Hello, I'm Victor again here. I only need to, explain. I'm feeling responsible for many comments about this, okay. Because the last meeting with some people here in the River West Radio, the conversation was about this, okay, the influence of the violence in the massive population, in the massive people, and we
got to keep this positive.
Yes,
man.
Yes. About this comment, was only can read, okay, some lyrics. Some letters of one university of,
yes.
of from here from
Victor,
USA.
Victor, let's split the difference. I think Gabe has got another film review. Then we're going to get to those lyrics. Is that fair?
Mira.
Okay.
Our modern in our modern
well,
age,
that didn't work. Okay.
Modern age. The
electronic
electronic media usage is prevalent in almost every part of the world. The people are more connected than ever before with easy access to highly portable devices like laptops, smartphones, and tablets. Okay.
Well, speak for yourself.
It's evident that allow for media consumption.
Wait, is this your poem?
Of unfortunately, the presence of violence in the electronic media content is almost as prevalent as the media itself. The violence can be found in music, in television shows, video games, and even in channels of video, music, and free videos. Okay, the content analysis have shown that nearly all media contain violence irrespective of age rating. I'm not going to speak about Linder and Gentle 2009,
yes.
Thompson and Hanninger 2001.
My man, what
Thompson, Tebichin and Hanger 2006.
Yeah.
Jokota and Thompson 2000. Okay.
My man, what is Victor? Straight up.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
No, then I'm going to speak about this. Okay.
Okay.
My personal opinion.
Okay.
If it's possible. If it's possible, because it's a few minutes.
My man, it will be possible. Gabe, do you have another film review? Victor.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Gabe, Victor. I'm going to turn you down for a moment, then we'll turn you back up. Gabe has done his he's also going to comment, so I'm going to get back to you. Gabe, you're ready. We're ready to roll with you.
Okay, so Cloud
and thank you,
Landsman,
Victor. We'll be back.
Is most widely known for Shoah, which is the unparalleled documentary from 1985, 9.5 hours. I've often cited it as the strong candidate from possibly my favorite film, right up there with John Carpenter's The Thing and Woodstock, the documentary, Punch Drunk Love, a handful of other films that fall into this category of just otherworldly works of cinema. But Shoah is like no other film. It really falls into the category of some of the great filmmaking, anti-filmmaking, journalism, storytelling, historical documents It is something beyond film. It's something beyond journalism. It's history, and it's a 9.5-hour film about the Holocaust where he interviewed over an 8-year period survivors of the Holocaust primarily, and then he secretly interviewed members of the SS who he secretly videotaped and lied to and used hidden cameras and extracted information for historical purposes, and includes in the film. And most of the film is just technical discussion of the events as they happened, of being transported to labor and death camps, being in death camps, and processing the dead, and engaging in the machinery of the killing of killing 5,000 people at a crack, day in, day out, like a death factory. So there's many members of the Sonderkommando that are some of the rare, like these rare numbers of people that worked in the Sonderkommando that were shot in the head and near the end of the, when they tried to destroy these death camps when the Allied invasion was an undisputable fact, when it was miles away, when they would hastily try and get rid of these factories. So you have these unprecedented, one-of-a-kind interviews that just sometimes are translated into multiple languages. So it's all about patience and waiting and cultures and time and words and perspective. But it's ultimately one of the most tragic, moving things. It's beyond a film. It's something else. And it maybe, I still can't figure out if it's a work of art or not. I can't figure out if it's really a film or not. Because the whole point of it is that it kind of is not a film, but it also takes artistic liberties and risks that I've never seen another documentary try to do and do as successfully, nor that I've seen a documentary do, because it simply has no objective of entertainment. It simply wants to create perspective and create something I think that Landsman thought was truly important.
Okay.
So last year, he was nominated. Not he, but there was a film about him, a documentary short that was 45 minutes long called Spectres of Shoah. That's an HBO documentary, but it was nominated at the Academy Awards for Best Documentary Short, which interviewed him decades later about the making of Shoah and about the consequences of it and what its lasting legacy is. That film is so worthwhile watching.
Okay, we're going to look out for it, and I just want to let you guys know that we have about 1 minute and 20 seconds, and so we're all friends here. We can all work together. Is that correct?
Is therefore important to ask what are the consequences of pervasive exposure to extreme violence?
Well, that's a Gabe question.
I think the initial conversation about all these things is the importance of the expansion of this kind of art, okay, and the consequence in the future for many many possibilities.
You're leaving it open-ended, in other words.
Is my opinion.
Yeah.
It's always open-ended. It's art.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
My man's got on the shade, so I don't really know what he's thinking.
We will continue speaking about the regulation, the normalization, the freedom of speech, the many things, but with
Hey, you know what, Victor? I could have gave you a Banana Man, but I brought him in the house. Seriously. I stopped at the gas station. They were 29 cents a pound. Man, I was like, even though I got bananas last night.
But probably there is a reason for to do these things.
There's
too.
Gonna be,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because
you guys are gonna.
There is other kind of violence.
You guys are about to hear another reason. We will be on at the same time next week on WXR WLP 104.1 FM Milwaukee to hear past episodes. Visit riverwestradio.com/shows and click Cinema Fireside.